This is an ancient alien object, a relic from deep time, and it is now racing straight toward our sun. For the past month, every one of Earth's most powerful telescopes has been locked onto a single, strange, shimmering point of light in the sky. Astronomers were searching for answers, but everything they discovered only created more questions. And now, time is almost up. Soon, this object will slip behind the sun's blinding glare, vanishing from our view and leaving us with a cosmic mystery that we may not get another chance to solve. So, what is this thing? Officially, it's called 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object ever detected, meaning it came from far outside our solar system, from one of those distant, ancient stars that sparkle faintly in the night sky. We don't know exactly which star it came from, but scientists are confident that 3I Atlas originates from a place far older than our own sun, a stellar system in the Milky Way that could be twice as old as the solar system we call home. And that alone makes this encounter extraordinary, because in all of human history, we've only ever seen 3 objects like this. The first was Oumuamua, the bizarre cigar-shaped visitor that tumbled through our system in 2017. We still don't know what it was, only that it behaved like nothing we had ever seen. Then came 2I Borisov, a more traditional comet, but still a rare wanderer from another star. And now, 3I Atlas, a new visitor, and possibly the strangest one yet. Borisov, the underappreciated middle child of the interstellar family. And honestly, it earned that title because, compared to the others, it simply wasn't that weird. Borisov looked like a comet, acted like a comet, and almost certainly was a comet, just one that happened to drift here from another star. Still amazing, but not the kind of mystery that keeps astronomers awake at night. But 3I Atlas? That's different. In fact, it has rapidly become our best chance ever to study something truly alien. A cosmic visitor that behaves less like a comet and more like a riddle wrapped in starlight. This is one of those rare cases where the more we learn, the stranger it gets. The discovery. Officially, the object was first spotted on July 1st, 2025 by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, ATLAS, which is how it got its name. Back then, it was drifting somewhere between the orbits of Jupiter and Mars, but leaning closer to Jupiter. But then came the twist. We later learned that 3I Atlas had actually been seen earlier, on May 7th, 2025, by NASA's TESS spacecraft, Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite. TESS was busy scanning distant star systems for alien planets, so it didn't realize it had accidentally photographed a visitor from another star. When TESS captured that first image, 3I Atlas was still between Saturn and Jupiter. That detail alone tells us something huge. 3I Atlas is moving unbelievably fast. For perspective, when NASA launched the Voyager probes straight toward Jupiter, they took 18 to 23 months to reach Jupiter's orbit. But 3I Atlas neared Jupiter in May, passing Mars by September, reaching its closest point to the Sun on October 29th, then flung back out to Jupiter's orbit again by next spring. That speed is impossible for anything bound to our Sun's gravity. It is moving on a hyperbolic trajectory, which means it came from interstellar space and will never return. The first clue something was off the TESS observations revealed something unusual. Even when Atlas was still beyond Jupiter, it was already glowing brightly. Then, over just 3 weeks, it grew dramatically brighter. That is strange, at least compared to the comets we know. Typical comets are just frozen chunks of water, rock, gas, and dust that warm up as they approach the sun. As the ice heats, it doesn't melt because in the vacuum of space, liquid water can't exist. Instead, it jumps directly from solid to gas, a process called sublimation, and that's what creates the bright, fuzzy halo around a comet, the coma. But 3I Atlas wasn't playing by those rules.
33.
A comet's
Create
glowing
vivid,
shroud is technically known
lifelike
as
motion.
the coma. And this is important because ordinary water-ice comets don't form a coma until they pass inside Jupiter's orbit and begin warming as they approach the asteroid belt. But when TESS first spotted 3I Atlas on May 7th, the object was still far beyond Jupiter. Yet it was already blazing bright and getting brighter every single day. That means sublimation, the process that creates a comet's glow, had already begun. And that alone tells us something huge. If 3I Atlas is a comet, it is unlike any comet we've ever seen. It's the polar opposite of Oumuamua, which famously showed 0 signs of sublimation. No coma, no tail, no nothing. But at the same time, it's also nothing like 2I Borisov, which behaved exactly the way a normal comet should behave. 3I Atlas was doing neither. It was something else. And then things got even weirder. Throughout July and August, astronomers watched the coma of 3I Atlas grow a tail, a normal next step for a comet. But the problem? The tail was growing in the wrong direction. It wasn't pushed away from the sun by the solar wind, like every comet in history. It was pointing toward the sun. Think of the sun as a giant fan that's constantly blowing particles outward. A comet's tail always flows away from it, always. It's like a dog sticking its head out of a car window. The wind pushes everything backward. Now imagine that dog sticking its head out and the wind somehow pushing its face forward instead. It makes no sense. And that's exactly why astronomers were baffled. 3I Atlas appeared to be defying the solar wind itself. The world's greatest telescopes focus in. To solve this mystery, the most powerful observatories ever built were turned toward 3I Atlas. Hubble, James Webb, SphereX, the cone-shaped satellite probing cosmic origins. TESS, called back to re-examine the intruder. But it was NASA's most advanced instruments that gave us the biggest breakthrough, and also our biggest new questions. A coma of pure CO2, the coma of 3I Atlas isn't made of water ice like normal comets. It is made almost entirely of carbon dioxide. There is some water, but the ratio of CO2 to H2O is 8:1. Meaning 16 times more CO2 than what we would expect in a typical comet. This CO2 cloud is enormous, possibly 300,000 kilometers in radius. That's nearly half the size of the sun. And because the coma is so massive, astronomers now believe the solid core inside it must be much bigger than first thought. Initial estimates said maybe 20 kilometers wide, then revised to 11 kilometers. But the newest observations suggest the nucleus could be up to 46 kilometers across. Big, but not unprecedented. We've found comets over 100 kilometers wide. The size isn't the shock. The composition is. It's the exact opposite of what we expect from a comet's halo. This means 3I Atlas was formed in a star system with raw materials very different from our own. The ratios are wrong, the chemistry is wrong, everything is wrong. And that's what makes 3I Atlas genuinely alien in nature. But was it made by aliens? There was another bizarre discovery this summer. During observations by the Very Large Telescope in Chile, yes, that's its real name, the VLTI detected nickel metal in the coma of 3I Atlas. And that's when things got truly strange. Scientists examined the coma of 3I Atlas and found nickel metal, but no trace of iron. This was confusing, because iron and nickel are cosmic soulmates. They're created together in the death throes of stars, forged in supernova fire and blasted across the galaxy as a matched pair. Everywhere we look, asteroids, moons, planetary cores, iron and nickel show up together. The only time we see nickel by itself is when humans deliberately separate the two in industrial processes. So how did pure nickel end up inside a comet without any iron coming along for the ride? Good question. We don't know. It's weird, really weird. And of course, that brings us straight to everyone's favorite explanation, aliens. Now, it's easy to dismiss that, but in fairness, the theories aren't just wild guesses. They're built from real, observable data, just interpreted a little more imaginatively. For example, 3I Atlas got dramatically brighter as it passed Jupiter. Yes, moving toward the sun will brighten a comet, but not that much. Maybe it's early sublimation from its CO2-rich composition, or maybe, as some like to joke, an alien probe turning its lights on. There's also a theory that the massive CO2 cloud around the object isn't sublimation at all, but the exhaust of a giant starship filled with living organisms breathing out carbon dioxide and venting waste into space. And then there's the more biological idea. 3I Atlas itself is alive, a gigantic spacefaring creature feeding on dust and gas and releasing CO2 as an organic byproduct. The wild part? Right now, no one can prove any of that wrong. Is it likely? Probably not. But the nickel anomaly isn't explained either, so no one can say for certain that this object is not artificial. Again, probably not. But the door isn't fully closed. The race to learn more. This is why astronomers are scrambling to study 3I Atlas while it's still in reach. In early October, the object will sweep past Mars at about 28 million kilometers. Still distant, but close enough for Europe's Mars orbiters to get a meaningful look. ESA's Mars Express and ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter will use high-resolution color imaging to capture the object. Not a crystal clear close-up, but enough to distinguish the glowing CO2 cloud from whatever solid object is hiding at the center. This may be our first clue to the actual shape of 3I Atlas. By late October, from Earth's perspective, the object will slip behind the sun and vanish from sight. We won't see it again until December, but by then it will already be leaving our solar system behind. Then comes our last big chance. On March 16th, 2026, 3I Atlas will swing past Jupiter at a distance of 53 million kilometers. Still far, but we have one machine already waiting there, Juno. Juno has been orbiting Jupiter since 2016. Its mission is scheduled to end in September 2025, after which NASA planned to crash it into Jupiter's atmosphere. But now, a bold new idea is on the table. Instead of destruction, send Juno on a final intercept mission to chase 3I Atlas as it escapes the solar system forever. So, as strange as this object has been, our investigation is far from over. There is still time to learn something extraordinary. We'll get answers, and with them, almost certainly, a whole new wave of questions. And honestly, that's the best part. Because mysteries like this is why we explore the universe.